Good morning. This is the Monday morning drawing group with Jake Meeks. It is July 5th, and not sure, we were kind of trying to figure out whether we were doing this on this holiday or not. I guess we'll figure this out by the time I'm done with the intro. If you are an artist and you want to join in, then you could go to the Reinventing the Tattoo community. There's two places for you to download it as an app, either in the Google Play Store or in the Apple Store. Or you can go straight to community.reinventingthetattoo.com and you can, you could choose download the community or log in. And then when you click on the event schedule, you will see there's a link right there to either watch the show, but don't do that because if you're watching and then you start watching again, then it could get crazy. You want to click the artist's zoom in link. And actually, when you do that, you want to turn off the stream because otherwise you get into that crazy loop again, experiencing the show as well as participating in it. Anyways, point being is, please, if you're an artist, then find that Zoom link, or if you're having any issues, let us know in whatever chat room you might be in, because this whole thing is about participating. Speaking of where you might be beaming in from, you could be, let's see, on the YouTube channel, on the Facebook channel. You could be potentially listening to a podcast replay. But yes, that event schedule is the main place to get all of the upcoming live events. There's also the libraries of events that are happening that they're kept in the community, as well as the YouTube channel and the podcasts. You can go to all the directories, and there are tons of art rabbit holes for you to go down, because there's, it's crazy. There's like 3 to 7 shows beaming out a week. Well, speaking of, if you're not quite even sure what to look up, you could always go to reinventingthetattoo.com/247. Let me, you could go to reinventing247.com, 247.com, and let me show you what we've got going on. It's pretty crazy. Screen share, Reinventing 24/7. Okay, so you could see here, we've got the, let me see if I could see how much you could see here. It's got all the replays here. Right now, what's playing is Machines, Magnetism, and Mayhem with Tony Urbanic. This is a tattoo machine panel that we had. There's a replay of the Reinventing Drawing Group with Jason Leeser. So if you just want to catch some of the old episodes and you're not quite sure which one, you could just kind of see here. There's 3. There's Tattoo Collecting Podcast number 35. And then we have a global channel in Espanol, live biomech demo with Roberto. And and actually, while we're here, of course, you should check out all of the sponsors, but we have a Reinventing the Tattoo Sample Pack, soon to be a famous Reinventing the Tattoo Sample Pack. And if you fill out your address, when you did your first tattoo and a couple questions, then we will send you a, like I said, a famous Reinventing the Tattoo goodie bag. It's got Cheyenne cartridges. It has raw pigment samples. I believe now they have some t-shirts, and depending on when you watch this and sign up, I've got a box of Dermalize here to send out samples, and I think we have stickers now, so we actually have Reinventing stickers. It's pretty cool. So that is the Reinventing 24/7. You can catch all of the replays as well as sign up for the goodie bags. And now that is all I can remember without my script. So, okay, our weekly staple shows that happen every week, except for on holidays. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. We have Sundays at 1 o'clock Eastern. All of these are Eastern Standard Times. A Reinventing Drawing Group, just like this one, where artists beam in. Jason Leeser hosts that one every Sunday at 1 o'clock. Starting from here on out, we did a pilot, but from here on out, every Sunday at 9 o'clock at night Eastern is the Tattoo Weekly with Lauren, Jake Meeks, and I, where we recap the previous week's streams, tease the next week ones, and then we have some user-submitted segments, and we'll be doing interviews with different artists, small little mini interviews. Again, kind of like a little weekly show every Sunday night, 9 o'clock. Mondays at 9 a.m. is the Jake Meeks with the Fireside Tattoo Network. It's the Reinventing Drawing Group. So one you're watching now, or watching or listening to the replay of now. Every Monday at 9 o'clock at night, we have subscriber exercises with Guy Aitchison. So the other ones are all free. Thank you to our sponsors, and I'll thank them again coming up. But we also have subscriber exercises. They're actually the beating heart, the paying subscribers for Reinventing the Tattoo. It's the Canon. If you go to courses.reinventingthetattoo.com, it's like $300 a year, but it gets you access to not only the whole Canon, but exclusive exercises with Guy every Monday at 9 o'clock. It's amazing. Okay, so let's see. So Tuesdays at 10 a.m., we're doing another drawing group with Ricardo, which is pretty awesome. He's got specific exercises to do. You can go and check out the replay of the last couple, and he's got what do you call them? Not ingredient lists, supply lists for you to follow along with them and to go through those exercises. Let's see. Wednesdays at 12 noon, we've got the Tattoo Now show. We've got Thursdays at noon, the Tattoo Collecting podcast. Thursday nights at 7 p.m., another subscribers exercise with Kirsten. That one is for subscribers, but all skill levels are encouraged. The fundamentals and apprentices are encouraged. So those are the two subscriber exercises. Those are like going to the gym, and then this is like the open gym, just beaming into these drawing groups. So yeah, and again, if you're interested in beaming into any of these shows, download the app in either the app stores, community.reinventingthetattoo.com, and then you go to the events and you will see what's going on. Other upcoming events in the community, I'm going to screen share again so that you can check it out. So this is our Reinventing the Tattoo community. I keep talking about these events link. And so let's see, some upcoming special events. Oh, right. The Reinventing Lettering session that's happening Monday. Actually, I think that's today at 7 p.m. Eastern, and you could check it out live. Let's see, other things we've got going on. Ancient American Art with Professor Malin, and also Tattooer El Chamu will be here. This is Tuesday at 2 p.m. And yeah, that's all about ancient American art. We've got a professor who specializes in researching the art, as well as a tattooer who tattoos in that style. Reinventing My Life Through Tattooing with Veronica Nail. My pronunciation is horrible again. But Veronica is a cosmetic tattooer. She's coming over with us to the Reinventing event in Brussels. So she's got a great, an amazing story. So we will be interviewing her at 12 noon. And again, all these are available as the replays inside of the library. If to get to the library, go to the home. And right here is the library. Let's see, we've got videos, and we've got, well, there's the 24/7 channel, and then we've got the podcast, Spring Equinox, that's a pretty sick replay, tattoo collecting podcasts, these art groups, art jams, Let's Talk Tattoo with Mark, the history. It's amazing. There really is so much to do here, and we appreciate everybody watching and recommending us. Speaking of recommending, please send your positive reviews out to the channels that you're watching this on. Your constructive criticism can come straight to us, management@reinventingthetattoo.com. Okay, a couple more things to chat about before we start the show, presuming that we actually have a show today. Upcoming professional development. The Reinventing the Tattoo curriculum can always be found at courses.reinventingthetattoo.com. First link there is the Canon, and that has Guy Aitchison's exceptionally comprehensive course. It's got tons of videos where Guy explicitly talks about techniques, both and most importantly in contrast and drawing and composition, and as well as the actual specific ways to poke the holes and whatnot to achieve different effects. And he's doing a lot of the editing of the videos. So when he's got the needle groupings, they're like right there, and he's got the icons, and it's exactly the way, well, that he would want to do it. So that's the courses that you can get. It's basically on demand. You know, it's $300 and for a year, and you get access to everything. Again, it's dozens of hours of seminars, as well as, it was like 300 pages, but now it's online. So pages are a crazy metaphor. But it also includes the Monday exercises with Guy, where you can beam in, you submit your homework from the weekend before or from the week before, and yeah, you can get it critiqued, as well as join the group exercises with Reinventing Crew. It's pretty awesome. Also gets you access to special in-person events, which we'll talk about in a couple seconds, because we're actually doing in-person events again. So let's see, other things at courses.reinventingthetattoo. Andre Malcolm has an awesome koi fish design. I think it's $99. It's awesome. BJ Betts has a 3-hour lettering course. Bob Tyrrell has an 11-hour portrait seminar. And if you can't sit through the 11-hour experience, you definitely can never tattoo like that. It's well worth it. Bob is amazing as an artist, as a technician, and as a person. And we're very excited. Let's see. So we can transition into some real world events. Actually, Bob's going to be headlining October 3rd to the 6th. Okay, so these are real world events that are happening. And as I was saying, Bob Tyrrell will be joining us, as well as another round of slamming awesome artists. I think Jesse Smith might be coming up. Thea Duskin's coming over. Haley Adams is coming out to do a space rendering seminar. This is Tony Romel's coming up from New York to help lead the Drunk Critique Live. Oh boy, against our better judgment, I think we're going to do Drunk Critique Live. October 3rd to the 6th, 2021. That's this year. It's the Paradise BYOB at Jiminy Peak, and many of your favorite reinventing artists and streamers will be there, streaming out the live shows, as well as meeting everybody, doing seminars, discussion panels, the whole 9 yards, critiques. It's going to be fun. I believe the ticket's going to be like, not even want to say, it's going to be a very reasonable ticket price for the 4 days. That'll include at least one event every day. And then there's extra seminars. It's going to be great. Kind of like one of the a la carte shows, as we've done in the past, lots of art installations. I'm setting up all the some of the art spaces now. If you're interested in being a vendor or an artist, this is October 3 to the 6th. Paradise BYOB. Actually, the website will be up. We're shifting gears. We're doing this for real. So check it out. And if you're interested in participating, get in touch. Let's see, November 12th to the 14th is the Brussels Tattoo Convention in Belgium. There's quite the crew of Reinventing people coming over. Let's see, some of the headliners for the Reinventing live event, which means that we'll be doing seminars. Ivana, Nick Baxter. As I was saying earlier, Veronica will be doing a kind of a separate one for cosmetic tattooing. I'll be doing a business one. We'll be doing Reinventing subscriber meetups and art groups. I think there's a brunch that's planned. I've got the schedule. I've been staying up late just working on all these schedules. It's pretty out of control. Brussels, November 12th to the 14th. We hope to meet our European friends again. It's been a long time. And there's a great American contingent coming over. Yeah, a lot of Reinventing artists. So it should be a great time. Let's see, next year, 2022, shows that Reinventing will be hitting will include Hell City Columbus. That's hellcity.com, May 20th to the 22nd. We are producing, that is guys leading up the Reinventing section, and Rob and I will be producing the tattoo floor. It's going to be madness. There's about 100 tattooers. There's going to be the history tent, and then, like I said, guys, got Reinventing. It's got a full theater, so that it's like an auditorium. So it's designed to do classes that'll be happening for, I believe, 4 days, 8, 9, 10, 3 days. It's a regular show. July 8th to the 10th, Tattoo Art Expo is the website, being updated as we speak. July 29th to the 31st, 2022 is the Rubber City Tattoo Invitational in Akron, Ohio, Tony Urbanek. And then October 20th to the 23rd is the Paradise Tattoo Gathering. And yeah, we're busily getting all of the details for all of that together. Our sponsors that make these streams possible: worldtattooevents.com, the largest, most comprehensive resource for tattoo events worldwide. And I know I tried to copy his listings 10 years ago, but there were too many. After 3 days, I couldn't keep up. Alex runs an amazing website, and it is by far the most comprehensive tattoo event website that exists. And you can imagine how busy he is with all the reschedulings and everybody changing their dates. So check it out, worldtattooevents.com. And let's see, inkjetstencils.com. You can print your stencils from your iPad or your computer straight to the printer. So it's got like a crazy resolution, and it's pretty nuts. You save your hands some time. You save a little bit of dough, save a little bit of, whatever. It's great. Inkjetstencils.com, print out straight from your printer. They've got some great videos of the artists showing how to treat the images. And they've got a whole bunch of great stuff going on. People they're selling their sheets and their inks like mad. It's crazy. Inkjetstencils.com. Rawpigments.co is acrylic free, vegan friendly inks. Because they're acrylic free, they don't dry out in the cup. There's a lot of interviews in the Reinventing YouTube channel, as well as at rawpigments.co. It's pretty awesome to see Their inks kind of get out with people and people dig them. D-Lyze Pro is known as Dermalyze Pro in the rest of the world, but inside of the United States, it's D-Lyze Pro. It's a healing wrap designed to breathe. So especially if you're still using cling wrap or whatever, that's cling wrap's designed to not breathe. This Dermalyze is designed to actually heal wounds, so it's breathable, it keeps all the stuff out. You can check out all the videos of amazing artists using it. Definitely, whenever you're using those healing wraps, take the instructions seriously. But again, all the videos are there. Do a search for D-Lyze Pro or Dermalyze. Whew. We're almost there. TattooNow.com, technology for tattooers. Now that Reinventing's technology is getting all the dots connected, I am paying attention to a lot of our website clients, getting all their search engine optimization up to speed. If people still think it's all about social media, they have no idea. People go to Google all the time, tattoo shop near me. They find people, they get tattooed, or Star Wars tattoo, or sleeve tattoo. Anyways, TattooNow.com for SEO, CRM, technology needs for tattooers. Lastly, GuyHSon.com. He makes this happen, and he has a lot of self-produced products for sale. He's got, let's see, tattoo machines. He's got the Biomech Encyclopedia, this massive 2-volume book. It took like 8 years to make. You can purchase it all right online. He's got paintings, prints, all of that. We are going to see if anybody is joining us. Looks like we've got Faith on. I'm going to go here, and we could do a impromptu interview if you want. And well, I guess let's check out online, see if anybody's in the chat rooms, and it's not too late to join if you want to hop on in. How goes it?
Yeah.
There you go.
Not much. Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was happening today or not. But,
yeah, you know, I guess I wasn't sure. Neither was Jake. Biru Tattoo says hi in one of the chat rooms. I figured I'd do a little bit of a longer intro than normal just to see if anybody was to catch in. But well, what have you been working on this last week?
I just ordered a raw ink set actually. I have the custom ink set that I built. So I built one for raw, and I ordered it yesterday with the sale.
Awesome. So you'll be able to try that out in a couple of weeks, I suppose. Obviously, when it.
Whenever. I mean, I think they might be based out of Florida. Is that right?
California,
okay.
I believe.
It said like 1-day shipping, so I don't know.
Awesome. Let's see. Christopher says, "Morning, y'all. If anybody's drawing or anything, then yeah, we've got a couple minutes to beam in here. But let's see. Haha. Uh-oh. I was checking the Facebook streams to see if there's anything. I did put out a little bait the other day, or at least I copied a somewhat political post. I don't mean to do that. I try not to do that because I can get into horrible fights with people. And that's why I love the Reinventing app. Everyone's talking about, you know, inspiring art and shit, not politics. But anyways, I'm back. Whew. I'm back from the clutches of Facebook fucking politic talk. Oh, there's one more. I need to obviously check the Fireside YouTube. Let's see, for Reinventing YouTube. If anybody hasn't checked out the Fireside Tattoo Network, I imagine that Jake's with a family, maybe out on the boat. We're working on a pretty cool event. He's got a really cool space there in Memphis. And what Adam Lee says, what's poppin', homies? Jason says he's running a little behind, but he'll be on soon. Oh, okay. You know, trying to figure if I gotta. Oh, you know, this would be a good time to have some interviews ready for some spots. I've been working on the, you know, maybe I wonder if I could show it off a little bit. Well, maybe I'll just talk about it. It's not quite ready, but I've been working on the Paradise BYOB lineup and getting confirmations for everybody. It's going to be pretty cool. We're setting it up a bit like the art retreat, or there'll be spaces. I think they're either 5x10, might just do 10x10 kind of spaces, not necessarily full pipes and drapes. We're not doing like a tattoo show, but we mark it off so people can set up their easels, they set up artwork, and yeah, people paint and they draw and they sell, they bring the paintings for sale and stuff. Got a bunch of art collectors that are interested in coming back. They know that the art retreats are awesome spots to grab art. Let's see here. Let me chat a little bit more about the lineup that's coming, and so people can get excited. We've got Bob Tyrrell is confirmed to come up. He'll be doing his full-on seminar. Thea Duskin's coming over from Buffalo. Jake Meeks is coming up from Memphis. There's going to be quite the Reinventing the Tattoo contingent coming out. Jason Ricardo, a whole mess of people. Kire. Let's see. Vapors of Morphine are scheduled to play. That's the band that's going to be playing the opening party, which will be pretty sick. Those guys are amazing. Let's see. Jesse Smith is confirming. He's got it in his schedule. Mark from Needle Jig, he's right up there. He's going to be doing some technical stuff, maybe history through the eyes of the needle. I just came up with that clever line myself. I haven't run it by him yet, but through the eyes of the needle, kind of history, tattoo history through the eyes. Anyways, Tony Urbanek, who's been doing the tattoo machine building seminars, he's going to be coming out. And I don't know if anybody hasn't checked out. I mean, I know that a lot of people haven't because way too few people have, but he has like an 8-week build your own tattoo machine with basically hand tools. It's pretty out of control. And each seminar is about an hour and a half. He's showing you how to freaking map out the frame with the files. It's out of control. Let's see, the Apprenticeship Diaries. Amy Nichols will be coming up to probably work with Kire a bit too on the apprenticeship track. Haley Adams is coming out from San Francisco. I imagine she'll be doing some podcasting. Usually it's from the heart of the Castro, but if she's in a different location, it'll be live from the Castro from Jiminy Peak. But she's also doing a seminar on rendering space. She's got a lot of space sleeves and a lot of space artwork, which is cool. Rob Shaw's coming out with Tent Talks. So he's got a whole mess of history stuff from the Midwest, the Milton Zeiss tent. And he's like a machine collector, a flash collector, all that stuff. Tony Ramel, I think I said earlier, he's coming up from Tattoo Society magazine. So we'll do a full, not a full drunk critique. So we're not going 6 hours on drunk critique, in front of everybody. But we will do probably like an hour and a half drunk critique with Tony and Bob and Jake and Thea. They're all frequent drunk critiquers. Okay, Tattoo Collectors podcast is not quite confirmed, but maybe if they don't confirm to come, we'll at least beam in with them so that this is accurate information one way or another. And then last, but definitely not least, we've got Hablamos de Arte. Bruno, I'm talking to him later tonight. So I think we might actually have a full event every day that's in Spanish. So that'd be pretty cool. Cool. Okay, so you have your wheel fired up here. Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there's my soft sell for the Paradise BYOB. Bring your own brains, brushes, beats, bud, booze, berries if you're a vegan. Everyone's coming out to share. Ticket price will be exceptionally reasonable with all of the things kind of a la carte. I think it'll be like $50 for the 4 days, and then seminars are like $100 or whatever. Okay, so let's check this out.
Yeah, can you see it okay?
Like it's as best as we're gonna.
Basically what I did is I went through and I picked out all of the full intensity inks. So I left out anything that was desaturated or had white to it from all the raw inks. And what you end up with is a full intensity color spectrum. So that's basically the color spectrum going around the wheel. If that makes sense?
Yeah, for sure.
So all you have to do to get true value out of your color work is you pick a color, and if you want it, if it's in the dark, you just add the one across from it, and if it's in the light, you just add white to it. And the wind wheel is just a visual cue to just pick out the colors real fast, and it just makes getting like the 3 values like super easy. And it's supposed to kind of put that 3 value, like those 3 sections, kind of put them on autopilot just with like really simple visual cues. They're all color coded. That's pretty much it. It's supposed to be simple.
Yeah, cool. No, I love how it reminds me of some of the keys that like painters have when you go to the art store, and like the the acrylics or the oils. It's you know,
Yeah.
really zeroing in on what color is pretty awesome. And I mean, and as
Some of the, I don't know, like if you're doing like a split complementary color scheme, which is where you pick like three colors that are kind of right next to each other in one of the 12 sections. You can see the 12 sections around the outside of the wheel, like
sure,
violet and red violet and stuff. So if you pick any of the three sections, like if you pick this sapphire on the left and then royal sky and then turquoise and teal, you can pick any three of those and use them for an analogous color scheme. So if you real quick just pick any three sections, and then you get your dominant, subordinate, and intermediate, or yeah, I think that's what it's called. So you can pick out color schemes with this thing. Like if I wanted to do, can't really, I lost my Apple Pencil. It's kind of tragic.
it's like it's too bad there wasn't 5 primaries or whatever, right? 6 is great and it looks awesome, but I was looking for the pentagram.
I know, right? It just sort of happened. But like if I wanted to do, let's say I want to do a blue. It's not letting me draw without the Apple Pencil. But if you were to do like the royal sky, it makes it really easy. I don't know how else to. Like, the whole point is that when you're in the middle, you know what I mean, the middle of the dark form shadow, which would be your full intensity value, because whenever an object, that middle value is always going to be the brightest part of the object, even if like if it's off, like when you're painting, if I accidentally make part of it brighter, more intense, it's automatically, the eye is going to read it as a middle tone. So as long as we keep those nice and pure, and then for example, if I had this royal was like my main color, the royal blue, which is like a primary blue, and I wanted to lighten it a little bit, I would just add a little bit of sky or a little bit of turquoise because they're a little bit lighter, and that's not going to change the intensity as long as I stick within that kind of those three, kind of down here. And then when I want to darken it, I just shoot across and I pick Agent or Peach, and these are all the raw inks. I have a bunch of windwheels for different sets or different companies, and then we would just add white to it, and that just makes it so simple. And once you kind of get that, like I was so excited. It took me 8 years to figure it out, and I wasn't fully teachable in the beginning, and that's partially my fault. But
And what were some of the problems that you were encountering that led you to finally map this out?
well, when I came up here, I started to like really kind of dive into color theory. I have this book that my mom gave to me. Like it was her favorite book. She said she learned. It was called Everything You Need to Know About Watercolor. And if you look at like the intro of the book, it's like just real quick, like one page on value, one page on monochromatic, what that means, one page on complementary color scheme. And I must have read that thing like 100 times in like 1 month. And every single time I pick something else up, pick something else up, pick something else up. And ultimately it was like the split complementary color scheme that really like spoke to me, but I didn't actually know what a color scheme was yet. So I actually created this thing. It's called a split complementary value scale, which is where you take same thing, you would pick any three sections, and it's kind of built into this that some of the colors are a little bit deeper and some of them are a little bit brighter, and then some of them are like that real middle tone or that real middle value. So ultimately there are in each three section, there's an analogous trio that has a deep, medium, and a bright kind of, like it almost has its own little value scale in there, if that makes sense. I could probably
Yeah.
pull it up in here, but I was having trouble finding it. But they're called analogous trios. Let me change it for a second. And for example, So technically you can get, those are 12 sets of 3 inks, which have a darker, a middle, medium, and a bright, but they're all still middle values at full intensity. So I use these 3 analogous trios as my middle values. Does that make sense? For example,
A bit. You know, I don't tattoo. I've looked at these
okay,
things for 25 years, but it's I'm also color deficient. So
okay,
you're asking the wrong guy. But anybody in the chat room should be.
yeah, let me see if I can get that out.
There's a couple of them out there. I've been monitoring them in the background.
Yeah, I got you. But yeah, actually, I didn't really understand color theory, so I kind of developed this weird way to do everything. That's a little bit unique, I guess. But I think it's cool. It's basically, the idea is that from only 23 bottles of ink, which usually comes in around 200 bucks or something for a set, $200 to $300, you can get like 75 to 100 colors and values, and you can technically mix every other color that all the other ink companies have. It's one of the things I want to do, is I want to take Eternal, just because they're the most popular, and try to make a bunch of their colors using other sets in the wind wheel to kind of showcase that you can, if you have everything at full intensity, then that means that you get to do everything yourself with the saturation and making it opaque with the white. And if you look through all the different brands of ink sets and just the inks that they have, you start to see the patterns, and you start to see that you can make them all. And I just think it's more fun to mix and kind of on the fly and do all kinds of crazy stuff.
And you just need to be somewhat careful that over time you keep your mixes consistent, right? Like, so, I mean, obviously the originally the inks, you know, before there was a million different tattoo inks, you know, you basically had to mix all of your inks to create all the different colors that you were looking for. And then, but again, as like artists would maybe mix their inks a little bit differently, or if you're, again, I've often heard stories about people working on back pieces or sleeves. You know, the tattoo comes in a year and a half later, you're mixing your reds a little bit differently because, you know, or whatever it might be, and you have to kind of like backtrack. Was that like 2 parts this, 1 part of that? I guess, is that the?
It's kind of like that, but it's like the idea is to make it simple enough that it's, I don't know if I can say the F word, but I used to say that the system was un-F-uppable. Like, I tried to make it impossible to kind of screw it up by creating these 3 sections where even if the shadows are a little off, and even if the middles even are a little off, as long as the middles are bright and the lights are opaque and the darks are desaturated, they're going to clearly distinguish these 3 levels, and it allows for a little bit of wonkiness, like you kind of just said. But let me show you. I did this rose.
Well, I think there's just to jump in here, I finally got to
Jason, how goes?
Hey guys,
A real
so
tattooer, or another real tattooer.
There's also another type of contrast that a lot of people don't just talk about on top of light and dark, and it's something that I find to be very prominent with a lot of the most interesting pieces that I've ever seen, and that's the contrast between warm and cool, right? So a bright yellow next to like a super cool ultramarine blue is, even if they're chromatically on that same level, on the same saturation level, you're going to have a very intense difference just in like the temperature, or like the difference between a very cool jungle green versus a very bright like neon green, right? So your warm and your cool contrast is something that can add yet another level of depth, another level of dimension, and that's without adding black or white. Right.
And that's something like that is, you need to be careful, because if there's somebody that, and correct me if I'm wrong, if someone is relying upon that for their contrast and not value also, that's when you turn it to mud, when it goes black and gray or from afar.
Oh, absolutely. Pure chromatic value is one thing that you have to be very careful with. As long as you have a full dynamic range of dark to light in a monochromatic way. And what I'll do is I'll take my phone and take a picture of the tattoo as I'm working on it. I'll pop it into grayscale just to make sure that I've got a full
Right.
value range of contrast.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that right now with
Can I-
something here, I think.
Can I show you a rose that
Some,
uses 3 sections the same way?
yeah.
The scar cover up. So it would be like I was trying to cover up the scar, the rose, and so that's, I'll zoom in there. But you can see like even in the bottom middle petal, there's some darks, and then there's some middles, and then there's some lights. And I think if you did, it for me it looks like it's kind of popping out, even though it's just those simple 3 and the tattoo is not perfect. But you know what I mean? Can you see the different levels? I don't have a pointer.
You can. I think if you had mixed in maybe a little bit of purple with some of those cooler reds,
Uh-huh.
I think you would have achieved yet another level of depth instead of just adding pure black. You know, because you already have those black lines there to hold those forms and those edges. But
Right.
by adding in a purple, right, to cool down some of those reds,
Mhm.
you're going to add, you know, just another level of depth to it as well. You know, same thing with your greens, right? Maybe go into your darker greens and add a little bit of like a royal blue or an ultramarine blue to cool those greens down even more, because the greens at the tips are very warm. You've got a lot of yellow in those in that lighter green. So by going through with a green area like that where you already have your basic value down, and then starting to play with your color temperature, it could
Mhm.
help you achieve an entirely different level of depth and contrast.
Yeah, I know that there's room to grow. And the last chapter of my book, that's what it's called, Unlocking the Freedom of Color. It's more or less like trying to. It's like an easy way to get into it quickly, if that makes sense. Because I just learned all this stuff in the last 6 months, so I'm pretty new. But I know that there's like in the United States especially, there's a lot of flat work. Does that make sense? Like where there's
Right,
just
right. You see that a lot with traditional work, a lot of I mean, even with some more neo-traditional type stuff.
in my
Absolutely.
experience, just going to shops where people like maybe aren't trying to learn as much. They want to do it, they just don't have a way. So what I
Right.
try to do is kind of, technically my program is for like the people being left behind. If that makes sense, it's kind of like a cheat to get into it. And then once you get into it, I'm sure the website is supposed to kind of go beyond that. And like I could, for example, write a blog saying that you said to use temperature once it gets going. You know what I mean? Like kind of
Oh,
just
absolutely.
continuous
I mean,
updated resource building on this to get into the more advanced stuff that I don't even
you
know.
can never get away from your fundamentals though, right? So your black shading is going to give you that true pure black on your value scale, right? Adding white highlights is going to give you a true pure white on your value scale. So you're going to have a full dynamic range as long as you use some areas of true black, so a couple of little white highlights. Right there, you're already at a true dynamic range. What you want to learn how to do is control that, right? The
Right.
more you can control where you put a pure dynamic range, and granted, this takes place more for large scale tattooing than it does for, you know, small little one shot jammers. Don't get me wrong. I love me some one shot jammers. I do.
No, I feel you.
Right. I will do like little softball size stuff all day long and I love it. Start to finish, let's knock it out. Right. But when you start to get into larger, more elaborate pieces, say you're working on a full sleeve and it's a scene, right? Say it's a battle scene, or I don't know, zombie uprise, who knows, right? You want to start to control where your viewer looks. You
Right.
want to start to be able to say, no, 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 this is in the background. This is more vague. This is out of focus. I want you to look right here,
I
right?
have the
So you're
last.
going to control your amount of contrast and you're going to keep everything else with nowhere near as much contrast. Maybe it's going to be, everything's going to be a lot smaller on the value scale. Maybe everything's going to be either way light or way dark. But the only place you're going to have a true 100% value contrast is going to be where you want people to look.
I have been part of the initial intro talks about, I actually talk about it as having 5 levels, kind of like a diorama, if that makes sense. And whereas you're talking about bringing the eye, I talk about pulling it forward to the person. And it's kind of like just keeping a lot of lights and a lot of light colors, or like you said, a full dynamic range into what you want, the subject, and then stuff like the leaves of the rose and stuff. Maybe don't put as much that kind of stuff in. That makes sense.
It does. It does. Absolutely. You know, because you do want to try to, I mean, it's like saying the same thing in a different way, I
Yeah,
guess,
just allowing
because you're trying to control where the viewer looks. And
them.
that's key.
I talk about the composition and the rule of thirds, just how the eye moves down, that's in there. And then I talk about just framing, which I don't even know if this is a rule, but like if you just, I worked in the framing department, and if you put a blue mat on something, it's going to pull out the blue. Just that basic concept that if there's a part of the tattoo surrounding it that's a color, and I want to pull stuff out, then I'll just put little pieces of that color just to kind of pulls them together. Like if you have a red background and then you have whatever the subject, anything that you put that's red will kind of be, it'll pop out. So I call it the principle of framing, but I don't know if that's actually what it's called. And then the rule of thirds, and then using value, saturation, and I guess I can add using a dynamic range of value and using warm and cool and contrast to control the eye, to make it go like, oh, this is the sky that's I've done, and then it follows the eye down to the subject, and that's.
Have you by chance ever read Reinventing the Tattoo by Guy Aitchison?
I found out about this website about 2 weeks ago, so yeah, so I don't know.
When you start skimming through it,
Mhm.
your mind is going to explode.
I'm
And I'm
sure.
talking like nuclear explosion inside your head, because these are some of the exact principles that Guy talks about in his book:
Okay.
is full dynamic value range, controlling the focus. I mean, he even goes into like color and color depth, dynamic value ranges, background, how to create the illusion of in focus and out of focus, right?
Right.
Someone like Steve Butcher, um, who is a master at focus tricks, right? Has an entire chapter on creating focus. You know, that so Gabe's going through and showing off like you know, contrast, color theory, priority, line, edges, depth, lighting. You know, there's an
Uh,
entire world of like details and how minutely you can get into each one of those things,
it's out
right?
of control. Guy's out of his mind. I mean, he's out of his mind in a good way, but
I
he just went over everything too, so it's all like, you know, pretty fresh. And Jason, you just did a whole mess of the Procreate.
Yeah, and I got a whole lot more videos coming too on that.
There's a whole free chapter. It looks like it's got fucking a full on webinar and a exercise. It looks like.
So not to like, beat the same drum again, but yeah, I was in art school the first time I picked up Reinventing the Tattoo. And there were times when I would skip class and just stay at my apartment and read that instead of going to art school, because I was learning more from reading that
one of
than I
the
was paying to go to art school.
I'm definitely gonna look into that. But one of the problems I run into is that a lot of the people I'm trying to teach are kids, and
Yeah,
they
guy's not a kid.
and
Yeah.
You guys like a master tattooer who's been teaching for like.
don't necessarily want to learn. So what I'm trying to do is I created mine is theoretically you don't ever have to read anything. All you have to do is look at these charts go by in about I think it's like six little lessons, and it'll just kind of bring everyone up to where I am so that they can get into this and not be intimidated and not be scared. I made everything simple. It looks simple. I try not to stress anybody out. I try not to make it too long because it's really hard to teach like on the ground level, like the front lines of art education. It's really hard to like just get someone to just look at this. Just look, this works, And then once we finally get someone to understand it, we can start to talk about it. But there's so much resistance. I don't know if it's because of artists or if it's just this industry, but I'm
Well,
trying
I
to.
think you see that with a lot of the
Right.
upcoming generation.
Mhm.
You see a lot of people that are starting to learn that want to get into it now is that they want to get into it, but they don't want to learn, these principles, these fundamentals, these things that have been tried and true for hundreds of years.
And for
Look
me,
at the great Renaissance masters, right? They knew all about the rule of thirds. They knew about all of these different color theories and focus tricks, and they weren't afraid to use them, you know? And it's like, they learned by going and studying with someone for 20 years.
right,
Well, we don't have that kind of attention span or, patience in this day and age. We're like, no, I want it now. Well, at least I know I am. But, that's changed over the years because, you have to slow yourself down. You have to take the right steps and you have to learn these things. It's the difference between doing a mermaid tattoo on someone and having it, look backwards or look upside down and have it look pretty flat, or having it look completely three-dimensional in a scene where it's flying through seaweed and looking in the right direction, right?
right,
So you can get as complex or as simplified as you want to get when it comes down to tattooing,
right.
but some of the same base principles are there, right?
Yeah. I'm also like to some degree. uh, I mean, I know you have to cater to people and their medium, but like so much about tattooing is not about immediate gratification. It's about patience. It's about research. It's about preparing to do it right.
Enjoying
And
the
I
process.
can't like personally cater to people without an attention span. Like I get it. People don't have it, or less and less people have it. But again, this is
Ooh,
the thing with
shiny.
like, with like something like Bob Tyrell or somebody, or like a lot of these tattoos, they just take an enormous amount of focused energy and time. And, so I get it 100%, like finding stuff that's bite sized that people could digest. But some of it just has to be long form, and there's just something, and the more if that's what you want to do. Right. And again, part of it is there's all sorts of different artists. There's so many artists out there that there's, different learning styles for everybody for sure. Um, but again, at least for a lot of the stuff that I'm involved with, unless there's somebody that's pushing me in a different direction, which I have no problems doing work for hire for other people that, want to get a 30-second, minute long, quick, glory video or whatever, or message out. But like I said, naturally, I mean, and these things are pretty long form. I always end up reverting to long form.
Yeah, they definitely take patience. And like you said, that laser focused energy. It's one thing I learned the hard way last night, which is why I was running late. I got started working on well, I didn't get started. I was finishing up a sleeve. Went in last night on 4th of July on my day off for a client of mine from Florida, who flew up here to spend some time with family and get tattooed. And I'm like, oh yeah, cool. Yeah, we'll get you in. We'll do a little chrysanthemum on you. Yeah, that's not a problem. Yeah, little chrysanthemum was that big, right? And
Uh,
wrapped entirely around from his wrist all the way, yeah, to about halfway up his forearm. And he's like, yeah, can we throw some waves in the background, having him crash? And I'm like, sure, I'll draw some waves in there for you.
Here we go.
6 hours later, after we've wrapped up, and I'm sitting back saying to myself, all right, well, that took a little bit longer than expected. I know we got a late start. Don't know really how long it's been. Let me look at the clock. Oh, wait, it's 3 a.m.
Mhm.
Joy. It's going to make for an interesting day tomorrow. So, but it's about taking that time and making sure you do it right. Even a tattoo that size, when you invest 6 hours into it, it's going to show. You're
Oh
going
yeah.
to have that kind of quality behind it. Taking your time to lay those lines in right, to make sure my value is right, doing 2 to 3 tone values for every color, right?
Yep.
And long gradients, pulling that way out. then going back through after everything's done, doing those tiny little white highlights that just always tend to make that difference. They do. Those little white highlights can make or break a tattoo.
Sure.
But
Oh,
you
yeah.
don't want too many of them, right? You want those in a very focused, controlled area. Now, I work in a more graphic way, so I work with a very kind of graphic style with not a whole lot of like realistic value rendering or anything like that. But that's also because I know I don't have the patience for it. I know that about me. And it took a long time for me to realize that, is that I know some of these little lighting tricks that really can set things apart. I know I do not have the patience to sit down and render something like Bob Tyrell. I know I am not capable. Could I be capable of it? Probably, eventually, maybe someday. But I do not have that kind of an attention span. I'm not going to sit down and work on one tattoo for 11 hours. I can't do that. That my mind is not capable of that. So I work within my own limitations, right? And I know the stuff I really enjoy doing, and I know the stuff that I'm capable of doing. Sometimes they don't really match up, which is fine. Part of being a tattooer, we have to do stuff we don't always, become super thrilled with all the time, right? That's just kind of the nature of the beast. But it's being able to sit down and know those tricks and have those like ingrained into your muscles to the point that you don't think about it anymore. You're like, oh, light's coming from this direction, reflective light's coming from here, cast shadows coming to here, right? This is this kind of a shape, so I'm going to shade that more like a cylinder. This is more like a cube or some type of a honeycomb pattern. So I'm going to want to have a whole bunch of tiny little intricate stuff. Cool. I already know where my light's coming from. I already know how that value is going to sit. I already know where everything's going to fall. And it's like second nature after a long time. But it takes a long time to get to that stage.
I think uh, part of what it is, like I know you said that like people who don't want to learn aren't worth teaching. Is kind of what I heard.
Well, I've
But
never
for
heard,
me,
I've never said that.
But what I
Well, that sounds. I
for
mean,
me, it's
I'll defend that one after.
huh? I know you. I didn't.
If I heard that right, I'll defend that one after. If Jason won't.
No, yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, okay, but for me, it's about understanding what the words mean. It's about just being able to communicate with an artist of your level so that I can understand. It's just the basic definitions, the basic ideas to be able to, it's like a language, like what you just said. Like I understood everything you said. The people that are coming to work at the shop, like my three favorite people, they probably wouldn't have understood a lot, some of that.
Right.
You know what I mean? And my modules are not about, it's the analogy I use is it's like a game of Candyland. If you can play a game of Candyland, you can play it over and over without instructions. You can have fun. Maybe sometimes it's a lot of fun, sometimes it isn't. And you can look around, you can see everyone else is playing Candyland and you're not sure how they're doing it. And my modules are just supposed to be an instruction manual so that you can at least play the game, if that makes sense. It's just like, here, this is how it works. I'm not going to tell you how to make art. I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to bring you up to where I am in the shortest amount of time so that you can play the game with everyone else. That's kind of like what I'm trying to do. Art means a lot to me. Like I make art because I have to every day because it gets some of the emotions and things out of me. So like art kind of saves my life every day. So for me, like giving the gift of art to people that maybe the gift of understanding, the gift of that language to be able to talk to someone like you is what I'm trying to do. It's the mission statement for my company, Artists for Everyone. So that's kind of where, and I agree, like I've butted heads with people about trying to get them to learn and don't want to learn. And I just keep trying, and I keep one of the shops I went into, neither no one there had finished high school. They were not big on learning, and the one guy couldn't read that well. And so at that point, I was just starting it, and I decided to make the whole thing visual with no reading. So even if you can't read, and I tried to build in. I have a friend who's colorblind, so I tried to build in things that would work with someone who's colorblind or partially colorblind. And it's about making sure that everyone gets a chance to make art, to be, even if I never get any better than I am now, at least I'm playing the game, if that makes sense.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
I respect that. Absolutely. I think everyone that has a desire to learn should have the resources available to learn, you know, and they're going to rise to whatever level they want to put the effort into. Absolutely. I've spent, God, how long? Almost 20 years, studying tattoos and tattooing. I wrote my senior high school term paper on it, I mean, way back. It became an obsession of mine. And it kind of is. It's kind of sad, actually, how sick of an obsession it is. It really is. I used to go to sleep at night, just dreaming about these tattoos and thinking to myself, how did they do that? How is that possible? Right?
And
How did they get that that color so vivid?
there's
Right?
all these artists that I've been chasing, specifically like two watercolor artists. I was obsessed with Nico Hurtado for a while, just to figure out how he was doing it. And like I said, like now finally getting through that core understanding of what my system teaches is I can look at their work finally. Like I said, like I have an instruction manual. It's enough information that you can it's not just looking at just F all, like before, like it's just why are they using these colors? I can see they're complementary. I can see warm and cool. I can see values. I can see saturation, and I can see it all. And instead of just being like, that's like insanely better than mine, I can see, oh, that's cool what they did there, and that's cool what they did there. And I should use that in my work or things like
Yep,
that.
because
It's just how they did
you've
it. And
understood those tricks.
it's,
They're little visual tricks.
it's like
Like
a,
when you're working with oil painting, right?
you
When
know,
you're doing oil painting, you can go back through and continuously blend. And Nico's got the same way of tattooing, right? A lot of his tattoos look like oil paintings, and he'll build layer over layer over layer over layer until it's perfect, right? And then he'll move on, right? He works at a little bit of a slower pace, but his work is impeccable, right? Like flawless gradients,
and
so smooth. It's like it's airbrushed. It's amazing.
I wasn't even necessarily trying to get to that level. I just wanted to know so bad how he did it. Like, what was he doing? Why does his look like that and mine isn't even close? So, and like I built the palette from one of his videos, that Day of the Dead. I don't know if you've ever seen that one.
Yep.
He lists the colors that he used. So I bought every single color and laid them out and made all these diagrams. And like I learned how to make grays from by putting out blue and then mixing a little brown in to make grays. Like I learned how to do that. I learned how to make olive. I learned about brightness and saturation. I learned a lot from that video. But and then I made a color wheel and I just did all these fundamental things and no one helped me. I've been in a bunch of shops with a bunch of artists. No one's ever made a color wheel in any shop that I've ever been in. And it just seemed, it's like I felt like I was by myself, if that makes sense. And everyone's either too busy or too lazy.
There are, as unfortunate as it is, there are a lot of places in this country that are like that. I could name 4 right off the top of my head, just in the area I work in, which is oversaturated with tattoo studios.
It is. And I'm not saying that every single person in this industry, like before, like where I said not worth teaching, but in every shop that I've been, there's always that one person, usually a young person, who got into this industry with like stars in their eyes, just waiting. This is gonna be the coolest job that I've ever had. And like they've been grinding out walk-ins for like 3 years and they're just like they're not getting better with like art wise, if that makes sense. There's
Oh, I
stuff,
know guys. I know
stuff
guys that have been doing it for 20 years
what I mean. And it's just
that are in their, early 50s, early to mid 50s, that you don't have any kind of a concept of this. And they don't really care to learn. You know, they're like, all right, well, whatever. I do what I do, and that's my style, right? And I've heard that used a lot of different times. It's like, no, that's my style. That's the way I do things. And it's like, okay, moving on. I'm gonna go and look over here now. Because you can't force knowledge into someone's head. You can't force feed it. Knowledge and learning and passing on that knowledge is a two-way street. If they're willing to learn, teach what you know, right?
Right.
Absolutely.
For me, I've always tattooers are at the least are getting tattooed by sick tattooers to learn is one of the most common paths for people to kind of figure it out. The color wheel. Russ Abbott's had the color wheel for tattooers for it might even be over a decade at this point. Now again, everyone kind of has to figure out how to get to it. And again, color wheels are stuff that have existed before. I guess it's again, it's kind of amazing that tattooing is going through like these different changes or whatnot, where it's like, proportions and color wheels and all that stuff that have already been, figured out by the Renaissance painters and all that, have to continuously get reinvented I guess to your point, in parts, and they are getting reinvented into the new mediums. I guess mostly it's a matter of, just, helping people get to the path where they're excited about learning. Is definitely a good thing to do for sure. For the most part, investing into people who won't invest into themselves though is a surefire way to waste energy basically.
I definitely agree. But for me, part of it is one of the shops I worked in. There were two kids there, and one of them was super teachable, just wanted to learn anything and everything I threw at her, and then the other person didn't want to do anything. And I got fired for teaching only one of them. Because the one didn't want to learn. That's why I left the shop. But it's just funny that, I don't know, I get what you mean. It's worse. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink kind of a situation.
Exactly.
But at least lead him to water, right?
Rather
than just let him die.
Well, you can also sit back and ask yourself, well, okay, is this horse even thirsty? Because if they're not thirsty, they're not going to go looking for water, and they're not going to want to find the water. If they don't even want to find the water, and they're not thirsty, they're not going to drink no matter what you do.
I had those two kids. They both. I was like, I walked in. I was like, what do you want to learn? And they brought me a tattoo and they pointed at it. And both of them, the one was neo traditional, but it was using color schemes and it had value in it. And then the other one showed me an anime character, same thing, where it had value in it and color schemes. And I really think it's just that there needs to be an easier way to get the fundamentals across to anyone and do it quickly and do it kind of simple. Because one of the biggest things is intimidation. It's extremely intimidating. Like 6 months ago, before I learned all this crap, I think if I was on this show, I would have been twitching and nervous and I didn't understand that kind of thing. Or even we show Abbott's color wheel. If I show that, that thing's crazy. It's awesome and I use it, but from a novice standpoint, it's intimidating. Which is why I only worry about the 12 sections and just the basic idea of just the 6 complementary sets. Even that, I've tried to make it so I just little mnemonics or little tricks to make it fun. And at the end of it, I talk about the color wheel being like a board game that you play where you go around and you jump across. And it's everything I'm doing is supposed to make it fun and easy, and at the same time get the fundamentals across. Almost I don't know, I was gonna say something.
Yeah. Well, and once they understand the fundamentals, that's when it starts to get into 2.0 and 3.0 and
Right.
What's the next step? What's the next level? Okay, well, I understand my red, green, blue color spectrum, and I understand, my complementary, my tertiary, my analogous color schemes.
Right.
Where do I go from here? What do I need to focus on after that? Okay, well, instead of focusing on a 3-tone value scale, let me bump that up. Now let me start to look at, say a 7-tone or a 10-step value scale, right? Until I can get to that point where I'm at that 10-step value scale where I can start to break things down visually and see, oh, well, this isn't exactly a dark or a medium. It's kind of in between the two, but it's closer to this side than it is to that side. So that's going to be more like a 6 or a 7 as opposed to a 5 or a 9, right? So when you start to really dive into that after the fundamental section, after your base fundamental, structures of these are colors, these are tints, tones, and shades, these are neutralized tones, these are complementary tones, these are highlights, these are shadows, this is your reflective light, this is your cast shadow, right? Once you start to get into that and people start to gain that kind of an understanding, then it's time to start ramping things up and you start looking at things like, okay, well, instead of single point perspective, now we're looking at 2-point perspective, right? And now from 2-point perspective, you go to 3-point perspective.
Build and build and build and build and build and build.
Right. Which takes a decent amount of time. And I think, you've got the right concept where you're introducing people to these base fundamental concepts, right? Of like, this is red, right? And this is the color red. Where can we go from here? Where is this on the color wheel, right? What is this? What's the complementary to this? So I think you're introducing these concepts, at a very fundamental level, which is awesome because it really is giving people like a step in the right direction. But there is so much to learn to even achieve the point where, I look at people like Steph Bastian, right? Phenomenal tattooer. He's been doing it for a long, long time. Absolutely mind-blowing stuff. He started out doing photorealism and hyperrealism. And over the years, he simplified his process down and started to turn around and focus more on the fundamentals, focusing more on the basics. And now he's doing some of the cleanest, most bold traditional work because he started to boil things down and simplify everything. But it took that basic fundamental understanding of light source, value, contrast, shading, color complements. It took that kind of fundamental process first and that understanding of it before he could turn around and boil it down to that fundamental level.
When I moved up to Port St. Lucie, it's because the guy that I work for now, he does just photographic impressionistic realism. Like that's his main style. It's awesome. It's super soft, and I feel like it's different from what most black and gray is out there. But like I moved all the way up here just to learn that from him, and I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know. I just like that guy can teach me. That guy can teach me what I want to know, and it's because he was just mapping out light over objects, and that basic no color, no nothing, just looking at the light. I would go on YouTube I would work in the shop for 10 hours. I would come home, I would put drawing videos or whatever on YouTube and just type in value and just hit play and just sit there for 4 hours until I fall asleep watching. I ended up on this one, it's called the Drawing Database, which is like design school, just free out there with a good teacher. So I went through a whole bunch of contour lining. I learned all kinds of stuff about forms and shapes. And then I went to do the value section because it got into perspective and I just didn't want to learn that yet. So I just went to the value, and then finally there's this 1-hour lecture where you make a value scale and a value gradient. You talk about edges, talk about forms. And at the end of that, I was like, finally, I learned what a sphere is. I learned about form shadows and all that kind of stuff. And it was just like finally, you know what I mean? Like this is what I've been looking for. And it's just like, it's hard because when you don't know what it is, you can't ask for it.
Right.
It's true.
You know what I mean? You can spend 8
Oh
years,
yeah.
like I did, wandering around trying to figure out how to get started. And maybe I'm not teachable, but I want to learn. But, like I do and I don't, or maybe I'm on the fence, or intimidated. And what I needed was what I'm trying to put out there.
Well,
Awesome.
what
Cool.
I found, because I went through something very similar, right? So I even went through art school, and while I was in art school, I'm like, this is not. I'm not grasping
And it's a
what these
part
people
that,
are trying to teach, right? It wasn't something that my mind could wrap around at the time. I remember going in for the first half of a semester, and the teacher said, okay, so we're not even going to get into color until, a few weeks from now, right? 6 weeks had already gone by, and we're only doing black and white studies, right?
right?
Monochromatic value studies. And at the time, my mind couldn't wrap around that. I couldn't understand why we would be going through and doing that instead of just going right into color, right? And there was a definite process there, but none of it was ever explained. It was just learn by doing, right? And that's great. But I'm one of those people where it's like, okay, I can do that, but explain to me what our end goal is. Explain to me what we're getting out of this so I know what to focus on instead of just throwing paint down and trying to paint a person sitting in front of me. Tell me what my end goal is. What am I looking to clarify? What am I looking to understand while doing this? And
I
it turns out that we were supposed to be focusing on, our dark, midtone, and light areas, you know, and painting that and grasping the fundamental of shape, 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 shape.
right,
Everything is a shape. Everything.
right,
Where is this shape? When do you see that shape? What's this shape over here? How does this shape interact with that shape? That's essentially what it was trying to go through and do, but that wasn't teaching me how to achieve some of these effects that I saw other people getting in their artwork, right? Outside of even tattooing, just some of the tattoo designs and tattoo flash that were being created back when Cherry Creek was huge. Look at the Ed Lee sets, right? It couldn't compute with me how to achieve that. And as I was going through and stumbling along in kind of my search to understand the art in a different way, and this is coming from hours of sitting down studying paintings and drawings and literally studying them, saying, what did they do here? Why do I like this? How does this work? Right. And finally, someone came along and recommended that I pick up a copy of Reinventing. And I was like, all right, let me work a little bit at my part-time job. I'll save some money and I'll pick it up. And when I picked it up and I started to flip through and read it, I wasn't even worried about the whole section on tattooing. I just wanted to know art, right? I
yeah,
wanted to know these fundamentals. And as I was reading through it, I remember sitting down for probably a week solid, reading a chapter a day. And at the end of every chapter, they've got like a little quiz, right? And I would go through, and every single time I would reach a question where I couldn't answer it immediately, I'd say, nope, got to read it again. And I would go back through with a different colored highlighter and I would highlight different sections and put little flags for little notes, so like the whole chapter on priority, how to prioritize specific objects for visual impact, right? Huge, mind-blowing concepts there, right? Like my mind was mush, but at the end of every day. And I would go back through and I read every single chapter over and over and over and over and over again. And with the visual keys that he had there, I turned around and I looked back at some of those paintings and drawings, the tattoo flash, the tattoos I was admiring. And things were starting to become clear, right? It was like this veil had been lifted and it's like, I see what they did. I get it now. You know, I still have a lot to learn, And still to this day, I do. I know that 100%, and there's still things I need to work on and improve. I just we just went through a critique last Monday night. We were asked to submit some tattoo photos and our drawing assignments. And, I know that I need to start working and focusing on separation of objects a little bit more. That's something that was pointed out to me that I know I need to work on a bit more now. How to create the separation between this element and that element, or this area and that area. It's still something I need to work on and get better at. Cool. And I'm always willing to work on that and, to be better at it, because I know that an artist's job is never done. We're never done learning. There's always stuff we can improve. And it does even look at people like Nico Hurtado, right? One of the most kind and gentle, most knowledgeable people I've ever met. He still spends an incredible amount of time doing oil paintings so that he can learn more and advance what he's doing.
I respect and admire that for sure. I would tell people that, being a tattoo artist, it's two full-time jobs. You got to be a tattooist and then you got to be an artist. And I tell people that they're both hard, but the art, it's ridiculously hard, and people don't always understand that. But I do a similar thing. I'm like, with knowledge, I'm like, give it to me, and like, you give me a book, I'm gonna read it. Like, I'll get that book, I'll just read it on my 2 days off, and then I'll come in mind blown.
Yeah, it's like, okay, time to apply.
Just try to apply something, just try. But I don't know, whenever I try to teach anyone anything, whenever they grab that one thing, it's usually something that I didn't even think to do, or that I wouldn't have necessarily done in my art, but whether it's using white ink for the first time, or it's doing whatever it is, and they just run with it. And you see it in all their art from there on out. And it's like that feeling of grabbing something and running with it. First it was value, and then it was the saturation, and then it was, forms, and it's light, and it's just grabbing it, just building. And I don't know where I was going with that.
Well, it's a constant process.
And actually, this is actually probably maybe a good time to close up the show. It's been a little over an hour.
Okay.
On a holiday. Woo.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't watching the clock.
Oh, it's all good. That's my job. But yeah, no, let's, if everyone wanted to just kind of give up how people can find you. And then Jason, I did actually make you the host, because my computer is being ready to go. So if you want to click the end call when you're done, that'd be awesome.
You got it, bud.
Okay, cheers, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks.
Cheers. Take care. Oh, hey, you still with us?
I thought we were. I thought it was.
I was going to say, why don't you go ahead and give us a quick sign off? But
yeah, sorry, my bad.
Oh, you're good.
You can still hear me though?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I closed OBS, so it kind of just shut everything down. But yeah, you can find me on Win Color, which is my last name, WYNN Color, either .com or on Instagram. And I'm about to do module 1, which is the value module, where it just kind of goes through a sphere and talks about 5 values and splitting it up, which is sort of an intro to color. So I'm gonna have that up hopefully by the end of the day.
Awesome.
Yep.
Always good to have you on.
All right. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for talking to me.
Anytime.
Thanks.
Cool. And for those of you that don't know me, my name is Jason Leeser. You can usually find me hosting the Sunday afternoon drawing groups on Reinventing the Tattoo, where we talk about all things tattooing and drawing and art and sketching. You can see what projects people are currently working on, ask questions. We go over some Procreate tips and tricks, like how to add in reference images and things of that nature. It's always a good time. Always looking for more engagement and more people to join us. You're always more than welcome to join. And thank you for tuning in today. Feel free to reach out to me on Instagram at Philly Inc. If anyone ever has any questions, comments, concerns, if you live in and or around the Philadelphia area, feel free to stop by the studio I work at. It's the Inkwell in Southampton, PA. We're always looking for awesome people to stop by and say hi. So thank you very much for tuning in today, and we will catch everyone next week. Also, this coming weekend, I will be at the Gettysburg Tattoo Convention, the Battlefield Tattoo Expo, I believe it's titled. Feel free to look out for some live broadcasts from myself as well as Ricardo Sertivant. And I believe Kira is also going to be there as well. So thank you very much for tuning in. Faith, go ahead, wave to the camera.